Yeah, loud means sparkling. What a sharp suit, if I may say so.
Thank you.
Really beautiful.
Paul Smith.
Okay. Would you please sit down now? Dear photographers, would you please sit down? Thank you very much. We have to start. Please sit down. Thank you. Would you please sit down? We have to start. Okay. You too, sir. Thank you. Okay, welcome to the press conference to Life by Anton Corbijn. We have wonderful guests. I'm going to introduce them to you, starting from your left. Please welcome the scriptwriter Luke Davis. Welcome to Berlin. It's great to have you. And the wonderful actress who played Pia, Alessandra Mastronardi. Welcome. And this is Robert Pattinson. Welcome to Berlin. The director, Anton Corbijn. And the actor who played Jimmy Dean, Dane DeHaan. The actor who played Roger Love, Christian Brun. Welcome to Berlin. The producer, Christina Piovesan, welcome. And the second producer, Ian Canning. It's good to have you here again. And there's also already the first question on the right.
Congratulations, what a fantastic film, really. Anton, I'm sure this has been a very personal subject for you, but I wanted to ask Robert and Dane, you know, these are two guys from 65 years ago. How do the two of you relate to these two guys, to their attitudes, their lingo, you know, their ambitions, I guess?
You know, in a strange way, I related to this character a lot more than any film I've ever done, because I filmed it right before I went on the press tour for Spider-Man, and there was kind of a lot looming over me in terms of my future, publicity, and what the future was going to bring in terms of my career and, you know, fame, really, which is in a big way what James Dean is dealing with in this film. What it means to accomplish your dreams and what the personal sacrifice that comes along with that. In terms of the lingo, it was a different thing, but it's something I also took on. I remember my wife came for pre-production, and she was really annoyed because I kept telling her to just be cool. She was like, "Why are you telling me to be cool all the time?"
Okay, Robert?
I don't know. I mean, Dennis, to me, I guess he doesn't, because he's quite sort of straight-laced, there's not too much lingo in it. I don't know, I thought he was quite a timeless character as well. It's the story, you know, someone who's trying to be an artist, and, you know, his fear of not being as good an artist that he thinks he is the most debilitating part of his life. And I think that's, you know, it's quite a sort of timeless story, very 20th century anyway, 21st century.
Okay, on the left.
Andreas Hagenmoser, hello. This is a question to Mr. Corbijn and Mr. Dane DeHaan. Do you think that the fact that Dane DeHaan, Dane is a D-A-N-E and Dean is D-E-N-A-N, that influenced maybe you, Mr. Corbijn, or maybe this was a fate for you, Mr. DeHaan? I mean, even in your family name there is D-E-A-N.
Well, I mean, that was the reason to approach Dane, obviously. And yeah, with Rob and Dennis, that was harder to find the similarity in the name, but we got there in the end.
Okay.
Was that a real question?
I mean, I don't. I'm not really one to believe so much in fate, but I do look at the opportunity that Anton gave me as a huge gift, a really rewarding experience, and they did misspell my name on the my schedule for the press tour, or for this film festival, as Dean DeHaan.
Okay.
Really?
Yeah.
There's one on the left.
My name is Mahar Sigid, African Refugee News. First of all, I have to say this film brought James Dean back to us, because it's really well done, and the actors were tremendously good. But there is something that many people could not understand, because we see James Dean as a young boy, let's say in his teens, when he started his career. But we know James Dean as a rebel, but in this film we see James Dean that goes to the family to find comfort. So I just wanted to know, how did you manage to put this family thing in the film? Because we always know about James Dean like the rebel.
Yeah, I think, you know, his stance is rebellious in those years, in those days. But he loved his family, so there was nothing rebellious there, you know. And he was a nice guy, but he stood for this incredible change that was happening in the mid-50s, that was symbolized by the, you know, the start of rock and roll, the emergence of jazz, and the fact that he wanted to be an actor on his own terms, you know. So he was rebellious in that, rebellious in the way he dressed, how he spent his days, the people he spent time with. But, you know, he was not somebody who would kick the cows on the farm, you know. I mean, that's not that kind of rebel. You know?
Thank you. There's one on the right.
Yes, hello, Deborah Cole from AFP News Agency. I feel like I have to ask the obvious question to Robert Pattinson and to Anton Corbijn about how you directed Robert in terms of being a photographer, of getting it right, of you know, moving his hands in the right way, of having the eye. If you could go into that aspect.
I'm not sure if I taught Robert anything, but I think we got your camera like 3-4 months prior to shooting, an old Leica from that period and some film, and I left basically Rob at it. I think it was important that he familiarized himself with a old-fashioned camera, and you know, made it feel like part of his body in a way, so that by the time we came to shooting, it was a natural instrument around the body. Because a lot of these photographers at the time, they had 1 or 2 cameras always hanging around their neck. You know, they would not go anywhere without these cameras, which is actually different than I operate. But I think Dennis Stock was a photographer who would always be ready to shoot something.
Yeah, I mean, I was shooting with this I think it was something like a 1953 Leica or something for a few months before taking some pretty awful photographs. It's weird because I started to get into it like outside of my interest in the movie, and then when I started rehearsing, I was just trying to get just normal photography tips off Anton. He's just like, I'm not going to. This isn't just about how to take photographs. It's actually a character thing. But yeah, I mean, we're taking photos in the scenes as well when the photos are being taken. So somewhere the films, apparently those photos have been taken again.
Okay, there's one on the right.
Hi, Neil Curry from CNN. I'd like to ask Anton, in an age of Instagram and when everyone has a camera in their pocket with their phone, has that been a good thing for photography, or is it more difficult to find great new photographers now?
Well, it has two sides to it, I think. There's an incredible amount of visual imagery around us the whole time, which can be incredibly annoying because there's a lot of bullshit and people think that everything in their life is important now and needs to be registered. On the other hand, people find new ways to shoot things, and there's an interest in photography like there was never before. So I think, to speak with a Dutch football legend, Johan Cruyff, there's an advantage to the disadvantage. He always used strange phrases. But I do think that, there's, in professional photography, it's quite a difficult time. A lot of, say, normal photographers find it really hard to make a living, and magazines find it normal not to pay people anymore, because it's become common good, photography. There's very hard nowadays to put value on photography, apart from when it's from really very famous photographers, and these prices go the other direction. So I feel for a lot of photographers who are starting out. It's quite difficult to find your way around all that and make yourself seen.
Okay. Yep. Thank you. One on the left.
Thank you, Florencia Angeles for W Radio in Colombia. For Robert. What is your personal opinion of James Dean, and if you consider that he still be an icon for your generation, and how is for you to be a photographer, to be in the other side, because normally you are the one who was photographed, and is that all? Thank you.
Yeah, he was definitely, I remember when I first started acting, sort of 16 and 17, I think a lot of actors they have their sort of James Dean phase where every audition, like no matter what the part is, they come in and do a James Dean impression. I definitely had one of those. He's definitely very... It's definitely iconic. I mean, Dane would be able to answer. Dane's much more sort of connected to Dean than I am. But I mean, I don't know. I mean, I did feel like being a paparazzi for a second. I do empathize with their plight. I was filled with self-loathing and wretchedness, and wanted to really kind of harm myself at the end of every day. So I do feel for them. At the end of the day, I feel that they go home and kind of beat themselves. That's what I was doing to get into character.
That's funny.
There was one.
Hello, I'm Helen Barlow from Australia. Luke Davies, the man with the fabulous green shirt and psychedelic tie. How did you get involved in this project as an Australian? And Ian Canning and Emil Sherman, you both had a win with Slow West in Sundance, and now you're here with this. How do you choose the projects that you become involved in?
Do you want to start, Luke?
I'll answer the first part of your question. I had a long-standing relationship with the producers. Ian was one of the producers on Candy, a long time ago, which premiered here in 2006, which starred Heath Ledger and Geoffrey Rush and Abbie Cornish. So we'd been working on a few things, doing a bit of this and that, and one day I was talking to Ian about stuff in general, and he said, do you realize there's now a whole generation of young people who probably don't know who James Dean is? That was the starting point of how this came about. And then Ian was like, that'd be an interesting movie. Why don't you have a look at, do some research? I did a lot of research. I came up with this huge amount of information on James Dean's life. And I said, and I was telling Ian about it, and I said, there's this one interesting thing here where this photographer went to New York and went back to the farm in Indiana, the guy who took the famous photo of James Dean in the rain in Times Square. And Ian said, that's our story. So from that point on, I was just given great support by Seesaw. In a sense, I was interested in writing a film about male friendship. And the producers said to me, deliver us something that's not boring, that's not a traditional biopic. Explore that as much as you like. I was greatly supported.
Oh. It's very simple, really, in terms of how we pick our projects at Seesaw. It's normally some sort of story that we feel has a sort of right to exist in the world and that will connect with people. And then I think we then look in terms of our relationships with writers or directors for the most talented people that will work with us to start sort of adapting and bringing those stories to life. And, you know, to be reunited with Luke from when Emile produced Candy, and I was luckily involved as well, and then also to be the executive producer for Control, which Anton directed. It's sort of nice to bring your friends back together, basically, for as many projects as you can.
Thank you. And there's one.
Silke Mehring, Rundfunk Berlin-Brandenburg. My question goes to Robert and Dane. James Dean only had 3 movies, so what do you think what made him become an idol, become a legend, especially him and not very many others?
Well, I think that, you know, at this time there were not that many actors that were doing what James Dean was doing, right? There was, you know, Marlon Brando, there was Paul Newman, there was James Dean, and maybe some others. But what he was doing was, what they were doing is really revolutionary. You know, they were acting in movies like people actually act in real life, and that wasn't happening before this. And the films that James Dean was making, 2 of them were really for a younger audience. You know, East of Eden, Rebel Without a Cause, really for a teenage audience, I guess. And he was such a open, emotional vessel that I think he tapped into human nature in a way that these young people really responded to. And Rebel Without a Cause and Giant didn't come out until after his death. So it just left people wondering what would have happened. Where would James, I think James Dean would be 83 today. Like, he could be here. What would he be doing? You know, that's a question I think everyone that is familiar with him will always ask themselves. And there's these photos. You know, if you don't know these 3 films, if you're a young person that doesn't know who James Dean is, you know that photo of him in Times Square. It's that iconic of a photo. So all of these things, I think, were just a perfect recipe for him to become the icon that he is today. Right, Rob?
I can't answer better than that.
Okay. I have a question to Alessandra. Here on the stage. Hello. Here. Oh. I'm the moderator.
Oh.
Hello.
Sorry.
It's me again.
So I'm where? Okay.
Pia, the character that you play got most of her fame because of her relationship and with James Dean, but you make her so interesting and so strong in such an interesting way. Maybe you can say something about what you thought when you read what you had to play when you got the script. What kind of feeling do you have to this character?
I really didn't understand you. I don't know why, because I cannot hear you. It's because it's
Can you tell me what you thought when you read the script?
No, really, honestly. I don't understand. I didn't understand you. What did you say?
What did you think when you
Should
read
we play
the script?
Stille Post?
Oh, thank you. No, it's the microphone. It's just the microphone. Don't worry, it's the echo. I mean, well, I wrote the script and I thought, I knew everything about Pier Angeli because I knew her life, and I knew that she was really famous in America and US, but not famous in Italy, and that was a pity. It was just a waste of talent. So years before this script, they gave me a script about her, but then the project was too expensive, so they haven't done it. And when my agent called me that there was the audition for this movie, I was really excited. And when I wrote the script, I really enjoyed it, and I really liked the fact that for the first time we could bring Pierre alive again. Because actually she was maybe one of the only girl that James Dean had. And I thought and I believe now that it was an amazing friendship between them, apart from the sentimental relation, because I think they recognized each other. I mean, he was really young and he didn't like to be where he was as a famous person, was like entrapped. This is what I thought about him. And she was the same. She was really young when she left Italy. She was 16, and she had a really strong mother behind her, and she wasn't really free to do what she wanted. And I think that she recognized this in him, but they just had two different points of view to see the movie star business. So maybe that's what we put. We put this accent in this movie, how to play the role. How Pierre was actually playing it really well, the role of the star, and how James was absolutely against that. Maybe that's why they broke up, and I learned even that about in the script.
Thank you. There's one on the right.
Aleš Hudský, Strategie, Prague. Question for the director. You shoot excellent films, but also excellent commercials. What of your film experiences do you use when shooting commercials? And on the contrary, is there some experience from shooting commercials that you would use in the film direction?
As far as I know, I made one commercial so far in my life. And I don't think I used any of it in any of my films, because I only shot it after my last film. But I'm sure I use experience of making films into the commercial, you know. I mean, compared to making films, everything else seems very easy. And I do quite a bit of photography in between my films, because it's almost like a Zen-like profession for me. Taking a photograph, because it's much more personal and much more, you know, a one-on-one kind of relationship. So I really need that, I think, between films to take a photograph now and then. A commercial, you know, it can be an attractive proposition for various reasons, but it's not my aim in life to make commercials. But I would like to find out what I can do with film. You know, that's really my journey at the moment in terms of work.
Thank you. Another one on the left.
I have a question for Mr. Boone. Pier Angeli was one side, and you were the other side. You were the one who wanted to save him, to take him out from his trouble. So how did you prepare? Because this was a very difficult task. No, you know, like when I speak about James Dean, I come from Africa, but in the 60s, we had only James Dean, Marlon Brando. Before the Islamic laws, we could see this film. So James Dean, we could see the film 7 times a week because it was free.
Right.
So also the part played by Patterson, it's real. It's like the last part of the film. It's like the ghost of James Dean was on the plane. I didn't see him. I didn't see the. You see James Dean, and this is why I said you brought it back to legend.
Well, I'll say that I was very lucky as an actor on this film in that my character is fictional. So everybody else up on the stage had someone that they had to emulate, and that's a task that requires a lot of respect. And so I got to approach it and just channel myself through the character. And I spend most of the film facing rejection from James Dean. So it's fun to take over and over and over again. A lot of rejection, but it was also a chance to add a little bit of comedy to the film, or just a little bit of lightness, and I really enjoyed being able to do that. So thanks, Anton.
Well, we enjoyed the ad-lib moments very much. It was great to have you on the film, Christian.
Thank you. There's another one in the middle, yeah, on the right.
Hello, my name is Olga Galperovich. I'm from Radio Culture Belarus, and I have a question to Dane at first, and then a question for both of you. At first, I would like to know from you, Dane, tell me, please, was it easy for you to find a key for your role, and was it not challenging to smoke every time, every second, and or was challenging also to make a rhythm of the language of your protagonist? And the second question, it's like, do you know, both of you, how to make deal with the fame? Thank you.
No, it was not easy. I was lucky that I had about 3 or 4 months to prepare for this, and I was also lucky that the production gave me the tools I needed, that I felt like I needed to prepare. I had to gain about 25 pounds. They got me a trainer. I had to learn how to sound more like him. They gave me a dialect coach. I needed to make sure I looked like him. They allowed me to work with a makeup artist that I'd worked with in the past that I knew could take on the task. And it was just the biggest challenge of my life. But luckily I had the time and the resources to do that, thanks to, really thanks to the production stepping up and understanding the amount of anxiety I had to take it on, and the things that I really felt like I needed to do it. Yeah, but does that answer your question? Oh, I don't know. I wake up every day and I'm amazed at how lucky I am that I get to do what I love to do, which is to act. And the fact that the byproduct of that is fame, it's not a bad byproduct of what you love to do. And, what I love is the work. What I love is to act. And I think that's what James Dean loved too. And there's a lot of stuff that goes along with that, but when you really take a step back and look at it, there's a million worse things in the world than having to deal with fame.
Okay. Robert?
Yeah, I mean, again, I concur.
Okay. There's one on the left.
Well, it's for Robert. Here. How do you feel in this Berlinale playing two historical characters? In one hand, Lawrence of Arabia in Queen of the Desert, and in other hand, Dennis Stock in Life. Thank you.
I'm sorry, what was that?
How do you feel? How is your experience and your feeling in this Berlinale with two characters, like one of Lawrence of Arabia and one Dennis Stock?
I mean, it was great. I mean, playing T. Lawrence was like, it was such a, small part. I think it would have been so terrifying to to have any more significant time in that movie. I don't think I would have done it. It's such an iconic movie. I mean, I've literally seen that movie every Christmas growing up for years. Even though I think there is an enormous amount to be explored with that character. But yeah, this was, I think both the scripts, this script was kind of quite easy for me to access, I mean, mentally anyway. It kind of, I connected to it quite quickly. So, and I talked to you a lot at the beginning, especially in pre-production. And there was something about Dennis Stock outside of him being a photographer or anything, I just knew in his personality that is strangely similar to mine in a weird way, or the darkest parts of my personality. And then after meeting his son, his real son in real life, like, it's weird. It's kind of the stuff I was talking to you about, Dennis, just kind of how I imagined him to be. And I talked to his son, and it's like, God, that actually is what I was thinking, which was quite strange. But yeah, for some reason I connected to it a lot, so it wasn't too complicated.
Thank you. On the right, please.
Good evening, Hannah Bath for German Rolling Stone magazine. This goes to the director. You did Control with Ian Curtis, or about Ian Curtis, and now Life. Is there something specific that draws you to those kind of characters?
Well, I think they're very different characters. You know, people confuse the fact that Ian Curtis committed suicide and James Dean died in a car crash. They're quite different personalities. You know. Control for me was probably my most emotionally involved film because it dealt with a certain period of my life that I felt really very, very related to the whole story. With this story, I came into it actually through the photographer angle. I thought it was interesting to look at the relation between a photographer and the subject matter, if that subject is in the public eye, because I tend to do a bit of that myself. I think that is quite a different point of interest into a film than I had with Control. So I don't see him comparable at all in that sense. I mean, you could say this is a biopic and so is Control. I think that's kind of where the similarity stops. But yeah, so I like the underlying theme of the film about the male friendship and about the photographer and the balance between a photographer and his subject and how delicate that balance is. And I think it's alluded to in the film where Dennis Stock thinks he's doing James Dean a favor and James Dean he thinks he's doing Dennis Stock a favor. And I've been in similar situations. Why I said to Mick Jagger, listen, no.
There's one on the back, please.
Rolly Ross from Reuters. I was just wondering, we see a lot of the things about behind the scenes on the promotional trails in Hollywood back then, and I was just wondering how things have changed, or whether they've changed nowadays, and what is your normal reaction? Is it similar to, Robert and Dane, similar to what James Dean's like in the movie, when people hand you the pamphlet saying this is what you've got to do?
They never hand you a pamphlet, or I never asked to see it anyway. Just put the money on the table and get out. You don't get paid for these.
I concur. It was a different time, you know. Studios owned the actors in a way that they would almost just have a roster, you know, of a certain amount of people, and they would own you for years at a time, and you would live on the studio lot, and they would tell you the films you were going to do, and they would be in charge of the image that you were going to project. In that way, I think that in today's, in the world we live in today, we have a lot more control over the choices we make. You know, I'm not on a 10-year contract with a studio, and I can make a movie and then I can make my own personal choice for the film that I would like to do next. That wasn't necessarily the case back then. So I think that's the advantage of being an actor today, although it would be really cool to live on a bungalow on a studio.
I have a question for Christina, here again. Can you say something about how you got involved, what you liked about this project when you heard about it?
Sure. Well, basically, Ian and I knew each other from before, and Ian brought me the script, Ian and Emil, when they were looking to figure out how to co-finance it and how to make it. And so I wanted to work with them, of course, and I loved the script. and I'm a huge Anton fan, and so that's what brought me into the project.
And I have another question to Luke, the writer, here, hello, on stage again. Yes. Because you had this really hard challenge to find a language for James Dean, to give him sentences that he could have said, and you gave him really beautiful sentences, like the one where he says, some people prefer writing books to writing about books. I think he says something like that in a scene. I loved it. So how did you find it? How did you research? How could you know how he would talk in a situation like this?
Well, I did a lot of research. At a certain point, it felt as if I knew more about James Dean than anyone in the universe. And I watched a little bit. There's a handful of clips of him doing stuff outside of the movies that he starred in. But at a certain point, I let that all go because I was following the truth of the narrative that we had all decided upon and following the places that took me to. And there was a certain decision, really, that James Dean, that he wasn't going to be exactly like the character we all thought we knew, that there was some mischief in him, and that he saw a beautiful opportunity to in terms of the uptightness of Rob's character, that he could pierce the barrier of Rob's uptightness, and that his task in the movie would be to change Rob and make Rob relax and let go, and that for James Dean, that would be an interesting exercise. And out of that sprang a lot of the things that he said just naturally.
Okay, thank you. One last question goes to Mahari then.
So my last question is for Ian. You're here at the Berlinale with 2 films that will be box office, Mr. Holmes, and this one, so how do you choose to put your money on this film? You have a star?
Well, luckily on Mr. Holmes we were supported by BBC Films and AI Films, and then on this film we were able to put together a complex group of fans of this project, including Screen Australia, Telefilm, Film Nation, and Film 4. So we sort of find the stories and hope other people will follow us along the way and finance the films, and they did on both those.
Okay, so thank you very much for being here and for your questions. Thank you for your film, and good luck with it. Thank you very much.